Hello and welcome to coverage of the 2014 FSR Winter Series. I'm James Tucker and joining me in the commentary booth today is Sam Jones.
Hello.
Is this your
there.
FSR debut on commentary, Sam, or have you done it before?
No, I've done it before, James. I was here last year actually for a Winter Series race, so this is my comeback. Yep.
I'm so inconsistent. I just don't know whether you're you're here or not. But Sam has certainly worked with me on cameras before and on other commentary projects, so it's really good to be with you in the commentary booth today, Sam. What are you thinking of the race today, Sam? We've got some good drivers in there: Billy Parler, Patrick DeVitt, and a returning driver to FSR as well.
Yes, David Greco's back along with Jim Paresis to FSR Old Boys that I'm sure many of our long-time followers will recognise and definitely be keen to see what they're going to do. But also we've got a new guy in the name of Jiri Toman, who I've never heard of before personally, and he's been really lighting up the timesheets today.
Yeah, we're just having a few troubles with live timing, but we can report that qualifying has finished. We're in the 10-minute warm-up session now. We're just going to run down the grid then. Toman is in fact on pole. David Greco joins him on the front row in second position. Jim Paresis is in third. Patrick DeVitt manages to make fourth position in qualifying. Renz Klopp is in sixth. I just missed out actually there. David Benowitz, who I've not heard of, but is he an FSR driver, Sam?
Not to my knowledge, no, unless I've missed him before.
So a few debut drivers, or we'll get some confirmation on that. Brian Stark is in the 8th position. Dejan Kostanov, of course, a established FSR driver, is in 9th, and Lipala makes the grid in 10th position. Do you want to run down the rest of the order, Sam?
Yep, absolutely. So in 11th we've got Martin Hodas. I believe that's another new guy, and another debutant joining him. In 12th is Johnny Simon, or Simon, who knows. Adrian Rodriguez, a World Championship driver for FSR, is in 13th with another new guy again, Matt Sentel, in 14th. Marcel van der Linden in 15th, and James Sadler in 16th, which is not too bad for him. He's a World Trophy driver. Adrian Falcons in 17th with another World Trophy driver, Thomas Mundy, in 19th. As a matter of fact, I think he's World Series now, so I'm mistaken on that. 19th place is Tuomas Coriala, and Rando Tam is in 20th. Before we have Blair Disley in 21st, and Argo Tida, again, a new guy, I've never heard of him before, in 22nd. And rounding out the 23-man grid is Chris Knight.
Just to put right a little mistake I made, Steve Sock is in 10th position. Phil Lepard is actually in 9th. Missed you off, Steve. I'm sorry about that. But in this 10-minute warm-up session now, we just got 4 minutes in fact left. It's looking like it could be a pretty exciting race with a bit of unknown there up towards the front of the grid. Imola, also a circuit which isn't, of course, usually used during the FSR calendar. That's what this Winter Series usually does. And it's definitely a track that's changed since perhaps its F1 fame. Lots of chicanes, very stop-start. It's not the flowing track that it once used to be.
No, not at all. Although the third sector has been simplified ever since the F1 field were there a few years ago, because the final chicane has actually been removed. So it's a big rundown from the final corner all the way into the first corner. It's a very, very long straight now, so that should hopefully give us some overtaking.
Yeah, definitely. The Tamburello corner, obviously famous for all the wrong reasons, but it should see plenty of action today, we hope. Just one other thing, Sam, is Patrick DeVitt, of course, won the Winter Series last year. It was a 6-round series, plenty of the rounds set in US tracks. He's starting third today. Is he starting? Second, I think. No, fourth. Yes, David Greco. that was just a bit of a guessing game, really. First race of the year, it's going to be a bit rusty. Patrick DeVitt starting fourth today. He won the series last year. Lepala starting 9th. He was second last year. But the point was, nobody last year raced all the races. In fact, DeVitt won 3 races, but he actually missed 2 on his way to the championship. So this Winter Series, I'm not sure if it will give us a real classic championship battle, but what it will do is it will give us a little bit of fun over the winter, and also the drivers a bit of fun and a bit of a chance to test out some of perhaps the new drivers to FSR as well. Perhaps some of these new drivers will go on to race in the World Trophy, the World Championship and the World Series.
Yeah, that's absolutely what the Winter Series is all about, really. It's finding out whether R Factor 2 is a series that we can go with in 2014. And so if there's any issues, we can see them here and then make a decision later on. But hopefully, what we'd like to see is R Factor 2 really coming to the fore and being able to run a full season, like, you know, a great championship for all 3 series of FSR. But of course we've got 6 weeks to find out whether that's going to be the case or not. But yeah, talking about last year's Winter Series, it was very much a race of attrition. Every single race there was a lot of retirement, so it was whether you could keep the car on the road and keep out the barriers more than anything. And Patrick DeWitt really managed to do that, and he did manage to win 3 of the 6 races to become a deserving champion last year. So really it's whether he can do that again this year, but maybe he's got a bit more competition, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. David Greco was a top driver in the World Championship. I remember his name, but I've not got a brilliant memory for the sort of things, so I couldn't point to any specific races where he did brilliantly in. But I'm reliably informed he was a top driver. But that's definitely a big point of competition for him. All these new drivers, I mean, obviously the new guy on the pole position today, Jiri Toman, looks good from practice and qualifying, and it's all about seeing whether in the race they'll kind of build on that excellent 1 lap speed, and like you say, attrition, whether they'll be able to get to the end. Thanks for pointing me towards R Factor 2, Sam, because I completely skipped over that, as we're just seeing a big crash here from Ren's Klopp. Looked like that was out of the Tamburello corner.
Yeah, it looks like he just kind of clipped the back of another driver and then speared off into the barriers backwards. Hopefully won't be seeing any of that from him in the race. He'll want to have a clean race today.
Yeah, and that was another point I was going to make, is that R Factor 2, of course, has dynamic weather. Now, it looks like it's pretty nice conditions here at Imola, but I suppose it is theoretically possible that it could rain at any one point in this race. So that's definitely an exciting point to put to these drivers, and we've got to see whether that's successful. I expect that we rain in at least one of the races in the Winter Series, and it will be an exciting point strategically, exciting point racing wise. It's just exciting.
Yeah, to be honest with you, James, I'm not 100% sure whether we're using dynamic weather today.
Right. I mean, the sky does look pretty blue, doesn't it? It doesn't look like there's a cloud in the sky right now. No,
we could definitely say it's nice and sunny. I have a feeling that unless I've missed something on the forum anywhere, we don't think we've got real world weather on, but I could be mistaken. I'm sure someone will probably speak up in YouTube chat and prove us wrong, so
it would be good to hear if you know about it. I mean, you'd think that as one of the main talking points, one of the main attractions of R Factor 2, that they want to test it out at least at one point during this Winter Series. And I'd certainly love to commentate on a race with some rain and get in the conditions, and I'm sure some of the drivers would love to experience it. Now, we believe we're going to have a formation lap. Oh no, we're not going to have a formation lap.
No, we're not. This is the start.
We're going to be away. This is the start, and we are away. Toman looks like he's got a good start. Greco is going to tuck into his slipstream, perhaps down the way down to the Tamburello.
We've got a spinner in the background. I don't know who that is.
Spinner in the background, but Toman has got through the first corner fine. There's a bit of a log jam back in the pack, and that looks like there's plenty of smoke. And who's that off into the sand trap?
There's a ton of cars. That's nearly half the field, surely, that just spun off there. So we might have a red flag in this situation, but at the moment we are still racing. There's cars all over the track. It's pretty much carnage after about the first 6, really.
Yeah, it's a carnage, absolute carnage.
Absolutely.
I was going to say on the formation lap, which we didn't have in the end, that I was expecting there to be a crash into the Tamburello, because it does really narrow down into that corner. But Toman has really benefited from this, all the craziness behind him, and he's away through the Rivazza. He's just doing fantastically, isn't he? He's already opened up, looks like half a second there, over David Greco in second place.
it looks like David Greco is the one that's actually coming under more pressure. Toman's got a big healthy gap here, and I'm sure he'll want to extend it even more. This is a fantastic first lap by the young Czech.
Tell you what, if anybody has any information about Juri Toman, any previous series he raced in, any previous experience, then we'd like to hear about it, because he's certainly setting the FSR Winter Series alight right now. David Greco is in second, he did keep his second place, but we've just got to get some confirmation of some of the retirements, because that was a completely crazy first corner. First corner of the year, of course, everybody wants to do well, but you will have to think conservatively a little bit. Such a long race. We've got 45-minute race today.
Do it, and Paresis have just had contact into turn one. Durit's come back onto the track, he's taken out Greco! Oh my goodness, he's just speared Greco in the side, and the cars are stopping, so I'm guessing we're under a red flag here, unless I'm not mistaken. Everyone's kind of stopped on track and slowed down.
Safety car.
Oh, we've got a safety car.
A safety car is out. Well, is this new to R Factor 2, I assume?
Yeah, I knew that R Factor 2 had a safety car system, but I didn't know it was in FSR, I can tell you that. I hadn't seen anything before about it.
I have to say, if there was ever going to be a safety car, then that would be the correct time, because there must be so many crashes. If cars can vanish off the track like they can in R Factor, then there'll be stricken cars everywhere, so I have to say it's probably a deserved safety car.
Yeah, I'm just having a look on the forum. I haven't seen any rules about a safety car, so I don't know if the drivers are surprised as we are, because I wasn't expecting this at all.
No, I think you can tell here in the commentary booth we're a bit bemused by the fact the safety car has come out. Of course, it has, and the drivers are going to do single file, but we can't really tell you the rules behind the safety car, because we're not really aware of them ourselves. We weren't even aware that safety cars was in FSR. I'm not sure if pits are open, if there's a speed limiter, because of course it's good enough to say there's a safety car, but there's many different versions of the safety car rules. You've got IndyCar where everybody has a speed limiter on, and you can come into the pits at any time. You've got F1, how it was in 2008, where they close the pits as soon as the safety car comes out, then they all come in at once. It's kind of NASCAR style as well. We're not really sure what sort of system they're using right now.
No, and Jaakko Mikkonen...
What if the drivers are aware?
I'm not sure, but Jaakko Mikkonen, our director, our cameraman for today, he's telling us that DeWitt has not got a front wing, and that's surely due to that contact with Jim Paresis and then David Greco into the first corner. It was pretty much carnage. I just wonder if DeWitt got caught out and didn't realise there was a safety car.
Yeah, that would be... I mean, we are amused. We don't really know. We'll have to get confirmation of just what is going on here, but certainly plenty of action on the first lap of the FSR Winter Series 2014. We'd like to see some replays, give you some replays of what happened, because that first lap, it does just narrow down into the Tamburello, and that is what caused all that carnage on the first corner.
Yeah, and just to kind of add a little bit more, this is a little bit of a trouble that we had in the Winter Series last season with first corner carnage. It just seems to be that when there's a lot of cars together, you know, little weird things seem to happen. You get cars flying around everywhere, so hopefully it's not the case of the game at fault. Maybe it's just a bit of ring rusty drives out there, I don't know. But we're looking at a replay now. We've got DeWitt and Paresis side by side into turn one. I don't know if you want to talk us through here, James.
Yeah, I'm just having a bit of lag. Oh, here we go. Yeah, it looks like Paresis braked quite early, didn't he, actually?
Yeah.
And DeWitt goes quite deep into the corner, as you'd expect from that. And when does the contact come? It just comes there on the apex, kind of, well, just before the apex, actually. And
well, on my
goes
screen,
straight on into the
like
sand trap.
Yeah, it looked like they didn't touch on my screen, but they both went off for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know whether they were just both trying to outbrake each other, and the mutual kind of competition there caused the problems. But I just lagged just over where I expected the contact to be, so I kind of lagged it.
Yeah, and we're looking at Juri Toman now coming down into the first corner. The safety car's popped out in front of him, and he just has to slam on the brakes, locking the left front up there, just trying to avoid the safety car. I'm presuming the safety car is actually a solid car in this game. You can drive through it and can lose your front wing, so very, very lucky there by the Czech. He's managed to avoid contact, I believe, or does he make contact? As we see David Benowitz coming as well, and yes, he does. Oh, he touches the safety car, loses his front wing. What a disaster!
That is a complete disaster. And I was just trying to. The safety car is in fact another FSR car, right? So that is interesting.
Yeah.
Just get some comments, which I find quite funny on YouTube. The original X deck says RF2 is ready. Half the drivers on the grid aren't.
Yeah, we're just looking now. DeWitt rejoining the track, and he just spears into the side of David Greco and spins him around. That's where DeWitt lost his front wing. David Greco's gone round. He's done a full 360. He hasn't got any apparent damage on the car, but I'm sure his right-hand side pod must be suffering from quite heavy damage from that contact there. So we'll have to see how David Greco gets on in the rest of this race.
Yeah, just to confirm the rules of the races are done by time, 45 minutes, that's correct. So this safety car will significantly affect the length of the race, and therefore the strategy that drivers will have to take on board today. For instance, the fuel, they'll be able to burn up fuel much faster because there's no refueling in races, so they'll be able to go to a much higher mix.
Yep, and I'm thinking, have we got a different driver standings at the moment? Greco's appearing to be first on the left-hand side of my screen, but he doesn't look like he's first on the road, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on here.
After that contact, and a bit careless really from David to join up to the track like that without checking who was there.
Yeah, I don't know whether he just couldn't slow down under the gravel trap or what. It was a very reckless return to the racetrack, definitely not in a safe manner as per the rules, so I don't know whether the stewards will be looking at that after the race.
So here is Greco, and he looks like he's at least second on the track, which would be very impressive actually if he recovered like that after the spin. Safety car is coming in, we believe, so that will be interesting to see this restart, because we're not quite sure the rules on the restart. I expect they're the same as Formula 1, so it says David Greco's leading, but
he's not leading on the road, is he?
He is leading now, is he? This is
the
confusing.
timing's going mental on my screen. I don't know who's the first.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume that Jiri Toman's still in the lead, but David Greco's gone to his outside into the first corner. Opportunistic driving by David Greco. That's definitely what we like to see. I think that's his experience coming through there, isn't it? He's just jumped into the lead round the outside. Great move by David Greco.
On the outside, the Tamburello, that's where you have to be brave, but of course if you do get the brakes, if you get it all right down into the first corner, then you'll have the switchback in the second part of the chicane. So David Greco takes the lead on the restart. Now, that is the first ever restart we've ever had in FSR, surely, from a safety car. And so it's quite a momentous occasion. And perhaps the drivers, I mean, I certainly wasn't aware what the rules were. Is there a safety car line like in F1 where you can pass after that? Or is it perhaps you can't pass until the start-finish line?
Honestly, I don't know. If I wasn't expecting a safety car, I wasn't expecting safety car rules either.
No. So we'll have to get confirmation on all these things. But what we can tell you is that David Greco is leading, and the timing's still going a bit mental for me, so I can't really run down the grid until we've seen more. But it looks like it could be. Is that Honda in second place? Oh, they're lapped cars. I see. Oh,
yes.
Right. So they're cars who were lapped, but of course we don't have that confusing rule. Well, it appears we don't have that confusing rule under safety car where lapped cars go to the back or get to lap back or anything. So now they're in the way, because of course they've been lapped after the first lap contact. Right.
Yeah, so maybe whilst we were watching the replays, we might have seen quite a few drivers such as Jiri Toman taken to the pits, and maybe that's why they lost the lap, who knows. But we've got a lot of contact here, and who's that? Dianka Sanov nearly losing it in the first corner, but he manages to save it, although dropping down the field a few
just about
positions.
saving it, doesn't he?
Yeah.
This first corner is a real danger point for these drivers. It just appears that it's like you said, they removed that final chicane, so you have a long straight down into the Tamburello, and that allows a real good chance to overtake. Perhaps the best one off the lap, because apart from that, it's quite a stop-start sort of circuit. You've got chicane after chicane, and therefore not any really good chances to pass. So drivers are just taking all sorts of risks down into turn 1. It's causing lots of contact, lots of problems.
Oh, did you see that? Bledsley, maybe that was a bit of lag, but he looked like he got sideways and he was doing a bit of drifting. Who's this? David Benowitz has spun out, gone into the tyre barrier. That was a replay of him, and he's out the race now, so that's another driver out of this field. It looks like we've got quite a few retirements so far.
Yeah, if that was proper driving from Bledsley and that wasn't just lag, then that was incredible. His car was completely sideways there, and if he really did manage to save that, and that wasn't just a glitch on our part, then that was an incredible bit of driving from Bledsley.
Yeah, it definitely looked very strange. It was the fast left-hander, and he just sideways on the curbing, I think it was, and somehow he managed to keep it in there. And yeah, we're just being told that David Greco is now down in 8th position, so something's definitely gone on here. He's behind a few other cars, so he's definitely lost positions on track. Maybe this is the damage taking its toll on him. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just having a bit of lag, so making it quite hard for me to follow the race right now. But something's happened. Like you say, whether it's damage that's causing him to slow down.
Adrian
and 2 cars off.
Yeah, and Blair Disley
Rodriguez
as well.
And Disley can't save it this time, but at least Disley gets going. Looks like Rodriguez there just spun. He's backwards, it looked like. And there's cars coming.
Something's happened to Adrian Falcon. We can't see him on the screen, so he's gone. He's out the race. Yep, he's dropped out the track apparently. This is a
welcome to FSR, folks. But I think that comment which said that FSR 2 is probably, I mean, R Factor 2 is probably ready, but half the drivers aren't. Could probably be expanded to pretty much 90% of the drivers. This race has been completely mental right from the start. The drivers, right from the first corner, were crashing into each other and off the road in all sorts of different manners. I wonder if it's the Imola circuit, perhaps, because the Imola circuit is one which is a bit frustrating. I find having driven Imola a little bit, it can be a bit annoying. But I wonder if it's a fair reflection on FSR, on R Factor 2, or whether in fact this is just a product of racing at the Imola circuit. But whatever's happened, it's a crazy way to start 2014 FSR.
Absolutely, we're back with the leaders now, and it would appear that the timing has sorted itself out, and Jiri Toman is being shown as the leader. He's leading ahead of Jim Parisis, and then we've got, is that Martin Hondas? I'm struggling to see his name right here. Yes, Martin Hodas in 3rd place. So a couple of the new guys are really showing the FSR old boys how it's done at the moment. Yeah,
I'm just watching the YouTube stream, but it's much smoother on the YouTube stream than it is for me on the one that we're using, but of course it's about 30 seconds behind. So I can see what happens in a 30-second delay on that. But indeed, Jiri Toman leads now. He got the pole position. David Greco had problems with Patrick DeVitt. He took the lead on the restart, but it looks like he's fallen back now for whatever reason. And he's in 8th at the moment, it shows on our live timing. Renz Klopp is up there in 7th. Lapala in 5th. Steve Sock is in 4th position. Yep. That's a good start from him.
Down to that, so now we've got David Greco trying to go around the outside of Klopp here. Oh, there's contact between the two, and Klopp spun. He's half saved it. He's on the grass, and he's going to lose a couple of positions at least. So Renz Klopp is going to be dropping down the order to about 8th, I believe that is now, behind Dejan Konstantinov and Patrick DeWitt as well. As a matter of fact, make that 9th for Renz Klopp, just updating on the live timing. So Renz Klopp down in 9th, and David Greco's starting to make his recovery back into 6th position. So we're on board with Patrick DeWitt at the moment, and just to run you down the list of the guys who have retired so far, we've got Chris Knight, Johnny Simon, Romas Coriala, Thomas Mundy, Argo Tida, James Sadler, Brian Stark, Adrian Rodriguez, David Nowitz and Adrian Falcon, who we saw underneath the track, so clearly something went wrong for him there. I'm sure he's very disappointed with how his days turned out, but we've still got just over half the field left in this race. But as you can see, just like in the Winter Series last year, it's definitely going to be a race of attrition, and we could be seeing maybe only a handful of cars finishing this race with still another half an hour's worth of racing left to go. As we've got someone in the foreground spinning off, that's Steve Sock. He's just lost it down at the Ravazza,
fourth position,
bottom of the track. Yep.
That's a shame for Steve Sock. He was having an excellent race after starting in, I believe, 10th position. He had managed to come through the carnage up to 4th, but now he's joined in with the carnage, and he'll fall back to, it looks like, at least 7th place, probably even further once he gets going. Yeah, like you say, I think attrition is definitely going to be a big part of it. A few people in the YouTube comments getting a little annoyed, some saying the game isn't ready, some say perhaps blaming this attrition on the game. I have to say, like you said, the Winter Series last year was a race of attrition, so you can't blame it all on the game. It is a real melting pot type environment. Usually you've got the World Championship, you've got the World Series, and you've got the World Trophy, which kind of separates drivers by their ability, not only in speed, but also to race side by side. Whereas here, all the drivers are all thrown into one big melting pot of ability, and that perhaps could be causing some of the problems and some of the crashes. The Parlour at the moment seems to be holding David Greco up a bit in the 4th position.
There still looks like there's a bit of a gap between the two, so I don't think he's holding David Greco up too much, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Greco really coming up to the back of Nepala in the next lap or two, and we could possibly have a fight on for 4th place.
Certainly the damage though to Greco could affect him if he's not careful. Well, he didn't have any choice really, but it could affect him. But if he's not careful, he'll get more damage, because I imagine it would affect the grip of the car, and that could cause him problems when trying to make overtakes now.
Yep, as we just saw there, Marcel van der Linden, currently residing in last place, 13th in the field, has just come out of the pits, and he's at least 1 lap down now. I can't tell you exactly because unfortunately our live timing today is not working, so we're just having to go with what we're seeing in the game. So yeah, it looks like not a great race for Marcel van der Linden, but at least he's still running around, and that's the important thing, to really get in the laps and get practicing, because you never know, we could be running RFAX 2 in the main series for 2014.
Yeah, I mean it's receiving mixed messages right now from the drivers. Thomas Mundy saying, if we can't see the cars, how are we supposed to not hit him? That's definitely a very good point. So I expect it's lag for the drivers right now, which is causing a lot of these problems. People saying you can't do testing without doing a full grid race, and the point of the Winter Series is for testing, so this will be determining whether or not we race in Alpha Factor 2, and you can't get annoyed for at least trying it out.
Yeah, absolutely. You just got to give it a go, and I think that's what makes it good, that this Winter Series is a real open series. Anyone can join. You don't need to pay anything. You simply have to sign up and just say you want to race and come on the server at the right time, and you can take part with some of the FSR drivers, which is always a fantastic opportunity. So yes, we've had a 23-man grid today, and there was clearly some issues at the back, but I have to admit all the big guns are still in the race at the moment.
Yeah, looking down that list of drivers, are any real
big guns,
Jaakko
Stalinov is on the grass. He's out the race. He's lost his front and rear wing. I don't know what's happened here. Who was that on the track in front of him? There's contact between the two drivers. I'm not entirely sure who that is. Oh, it's Steve Sock apparently. Yes, Steve Sock just got on the grass coming out of the second part of the Ravazza, and he unfortunately came back onto the track into the side of Jaakko Stalinov, and it's just taken Jaakko Stalinov out of the race completely. I think Steve Sock's actually out as well, so that's 2 more drivers out of the race now.
And once again, that was rejoining the track.
Unbelievable.
Go on.
Yes. So Dianca Sanov was spinning
Whoa!
around on the
Whoa,
track.
whoa,
Yeah,
whoa.
you've just seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, that is unbelievable is probably the right word. I'm not sure what's going on with the R Factor 2 physics there, but that's yeah. I'm lost for words.
Apologies to Steve Sock, that wasn't his fault. He's just happened to come along to a crash that's already happened. I'm not entirely sure who the guy is in the grey car, but Steve Sock's come along and he's just hasn't been able to see anything because of the cloud of smoke, and he's just piled into the side of Dianca Sanov, unfortunately for him. And
perhaps he
Bianca
should have
Sanov.
slowed down once he saw the cloud of smoke, though. He did seem to take the cold trickle approach of just put your pedal to the floor and try and get through. But wow, I mean, yeah, a UFO sighted over Imola. Oh no, it's just Steve Sock.
Oh, and we're just getting word that David Greco got past Willie Lapala whilst we were looking at that carnage that was going on, so moved Greco up into 4th position now. He's definitely on a charge, and we'll have to see if he can actually make it up and maybe get into a podium position by the end of the race, as we're now at pretty much the halfway point.
Yeah, 22 out of 45 minutes. We are through now, and so Lapala managed to get past Greco. Does that mean they had a fight without any contact? Because we had to see one of them today. I have to say, with all the drivers that seem to be rejoining the track and having problems like that, perhaps it is true what Thomas Mundy said on the YouTube comments, that it's just impossible to see other cars on the track, and that would certainly be a problem when trying to battle with them.
Well, we could see both drivers there, pretty much all three that were caught up in that incident, but, you know, we're not the drivers.
Them, yeah.
Don't know whether it's dependent on each driver's connection, I don't know. I'm just not entirely sure. I'm sure the drivers know better than we do. And we're just getting word that Parisis is catching Toman just a bit, although did I just see him going wide coming out of the Variante Tamburello there? I'm not entirely sure, but no, he's still there behind Toman, so this could be a hotting up battle for first place, James.
Certainly could be. A few more YouTube comments to read out. Tamas Foff says, really, how is our Factor 2 responsible for stupid driving? And like I say, I do think Steve Sock could have slowed down a bit. When he saw that smoke, that might be a time to perhaps use the brakes, even though it was in the middle of the straight. Thomas Bundy said last year we went a good 50 feet in the air. Now I'm not sure how realistic those physics are, because I've never seen a car go 50 feet in the air. They do say, don't they, that F1 cars are like upside down aeroplanes, because the wings kind of, instead of lifting off the car, press the car into the ground. That's how it works. But certainly I don't think they're designed to go 50 feet into the air.
Absolutely not. Nope. And we're currently seeing Patrick Witt in 8th place, who's dropped off the pace a little bit. So maybe he's made a mistake somewhere. Maybe he's struggling with the damage that he got earlier in the race with that contact with David Greco when he returned to the track in a very peculiar circumstances. I really want to get on this game and try out, see what it's like running through the gravel traps and the grass, to see how hard it is to, you know, keep control of the car and maybe be able to slow down. Maybe there's not too much grip.
That's one thing we have seen when cars go into the gravel trap, they are seeming to lose control completely. I mean, that's true for real life too, and perhaps it's just a feature unique to the Imola circuit. But we are seeing cars, when they go into the gravel traps, they simply can't stop. They just skid right over the surface. And of course, we saw David early pile drive into David Greco, and that is why Greco is now in the 4th position after he took the lead, of course, of the restart. But we believe it might be the damage from that earlier crash which causes problems. He certainly seems to be living with it now, and he's on a little bit of a charge.
Talking about on a bit of a charge, you'd have to say that Jim Parisis is getting closer and closer to the 1st position man, who's just ahead of him now, coming down towards the Ravazzi. You have to think that maybe within about 2 laps, Jim could be right on the back, and we could be seeing a battle for the lead. Yeah,
that would be good to see, because Parisis, he qualified well, didn't he? He was up in 3rd position, and he's run consistently at the front, along with Jiri Toman. He's probably the only two that have run consistently at the front. Apart from that, it's been a bit of a kind of rotating midfield behind them. We're still having a few troubles with live timing, which is why we aren't able to get you exact time gaps between the cars, which is a bit of a shame. But it is the first race of the year. We're expected to have a few problems. Hopefully we'll be able to fix it before later races in this winter series, and for now you could just enjoy the craziness that is happening on track, and hopefully we will see a battle.
Yeah, well, we've seen plenty of action today. We can't say this race has been boring. We've seen our first ever safety car, to the surprise of both of us and probably the viewers as well.
Yeah, that was a surprise, and certainly there's been action. What we want to see now is racing, how R Factor 2 really races, and perhaps that would be good to see if Paresis can kind of keep these lap times going and just keep closing up on the back of Jiri Toman, who we're still yet to get any information on. We don't know anything about Jiri Toman right now, really, apart from that he's obviously very fast.
Yeah, can't say too much about the man. I can see his profile, which does help. I know that he's from the Czech Republic. Apart from that, there's not too much else. We've got no history of him in FSR, so it's definitely a new guy to the series. It's always exciting to see. Oh, Disley is spinning around. Where's this? Is this at the Tosa? I think it is. Disley's definitely had a bit of trouble. He might have just spun the car coming out of the corner, just getting onto the throttle a little bit too early and losing the back end, but he's got back going again, and he's currently residing in 8th place, some way behind Patrick DeWitt, it would appear.
Thomas Mundy, our resident driver who got in trouble in the first corner and is now on the stream, said next week he's going to stop in the pits and come first after he gets all the carnage ahead. Not a bad idea, actually, Thomas.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't get caught out by any cars returning to the track after the carnage.
That's certainly true, that could happen. I can imagine that. Back to the racing on the track right now. One thing we don't know about Jiri Toman is how he will race if Jim Paresis catches up to him. Lots of drivers have different skills, different ways of racing, different abilities. Some drivers, of course, will like to defend very hard, especially if they're in the lead, and some drivers will be a bit more forgiving, perhaps, with space. You're making a noise, but I'm just had a bit of lag at that moment.
I think I just saw Ren's Klopp coming out of the Variante Morello, and he was definitely on the grass, really sideways, fighting the car over the curves, but he made a great save, much to a similarity to Blair Disley early in the race, of course. So Ren's Klopp doing a good job, and really he's a driver that I do like to watch, because he did well in the World Trophy last season. I think he only had one retirement, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that was due to a disconnection during the race, so he's a consistent guy and definitely one to watch out for the 2014 season, I believe.
Yeah, consistency is something teams value very much, because if you can constantly get in the points and just put in good performances, sometimes that's better than a driver who one week will be battling for the win and the next week will be crashing out battling for the win. Consistency is something that's valued, and he definitely gives that.
Yep, and another guy who's looking pretty consistent right now is Jim Paresis, who we're on board with, and he's not really closing down on Toman enough. There's a gap there that's just, it seems to be remaining quite stable at the moment, so I don't know whether Toman's just kind of pacing himself, or if they're both just going flat out, just trying to go as fast as possible, with Paresis using all the curb and a little bit more there.
So what sort of strategy could we see? I mean, pit stops for tyres, will they be done with 15 minutes left?
I don't think so, because it's definitely a case that they have enough fuel to go through the entire race. The fuel tanks are big enough for a full race distance, so it really does depend on how well the tyres, keep up, and to be honest with you, I haven't got a clue how the tyres keep up.
Well, that certainly adds an element of intrigue, because the safety car, of course, also will mean they'll have much more fuel than they'd have planned to. They'll be carrying lots of excess fuel, so they'll be able to really push. They won't need to worry about fuel conservation or any of that rubbish at all, which means that the tyres should be pushed 2, and it could be a matter of who can look after their tyres best and whose will go off right at the end. Because with 15 minutes left, you can't see any drivers really thinking about pitting for the fight to get a final charge to the line, unless there's another safety car, of course, which would really help.
No, absolutely not. What you're looking at, maybe about 15 laps to go. No, 10 laps to go, I'd say, with this amount of time remaining. I don't know how many laps we've done so far because we can't see. But yeah, maybe about 10 laps to go, and really you couldn't make up, what, a 20-something second gap in that time? Surely the tyres haven't fallen off that much, which really we don't know anything about. There's a lot of unknowns here. And Jim Paris again coming out of the Aqua Minerale, and he's using all the curb and going over the curb as well. He's really, attacking every single one of these curbs. He really wants to get to Toman here, and I think we want him to get there too, just so we can have a great duel between these two exceedingly quick drivers.
Yeah, this is certainly the closest thing I've ever done to commentating blind, because we've got no live timing. I'm having lag on my screen, and we don't know the gaps between the drivers. What we do know is that there is going to be a battle for the lead if Paris keeps up this speed, because he is catching. And that'll be interesting also to see once he gets into that sort of dirty air window behind Toman, how that affects the car in R-Factor 2, and what sort of effect it has on Paris' handling. This seems to be the closest battle we're having in the track right now. Looking back through the field, we've got Hodas in 3rd position. David Greco is at the moment quite stably in the 4th position. Renz Klopp is in 5th. Fred Lapala is in 6th. De Witt, last year's champion, is in 7th. Blair Disley is running along in 8th. I can't read that one, I'm afraid. In 9th. And Rano Tam is in 10th position.
That's Matt Sentel in 9th place, another newcomer who's trying out the FSR Winter Series for the first time. And I do remember during the safety car period he had no rear wing on the back of his car, so he's not doing a bad job, still going around the track. He's got all his wings back on now. And
Rano Tam was in trouble too, wasn't he? We don't know how far behind they are because we don't have the live timing. There might be 10 laps now, but they're still in it, they're still running, and that's important.
Yep, absolutely. And just as Jaakko, our cameraman for today, points out, Matt Sentel is just, not too far behind Blair Disley, which is a pretty good effort for someone who's new to the series and racing to a long-time FSR veteran.
Yeah, and certainly for anyone who's new to the series, this will come as quite a shock, all these retirements. This has been a crazy way to start the year. It reminds me of, I think there was an F1 race at Melbourne once where Mark Webber in the Minardi actually got points because only 6 drivers finished.
2000, I believe that was.
Well done, Sam. And that is often the first race of the season. That's what happens, isn't it? Because people just a bit rusty, perhaps, coming back to racing. We saw the first quarter; they were certainly a bit rusty there with their racecraft, and also all the problems associated with the new setup on R-Factor 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Jim Paris, he's definitely pushing this car to its limit through the toe today. He just got a bit of opposite lock coming out the corner, had to run slightly wide, but still within range of Toman. I really do wonder, going back to your point about dirty air, whether Paris is sitting in the dirty air right now and he's just struggling a little bit with perhaps a bit of understeer and oversteer in this car.
That is one of the problems of the Imola circuit, is that there are lots of sweeping corners which present problems for people in dirty air, because they're the sort of corners which you can maybe take flat out just about if you have clean air in front of you, but if you're in the dirty air you might have to just lift a bit, and that's the sort of corner which really accentuates the dirty air problem. And then you have the slow chicanes, and that's where he's got to make the time up, because in slow chicanes, of course, cars moving slower, there's not so much disturbance in the air, and that's where he's going to make up the time.
Yeah, but we just had a change for position. Blair Disley's dropped down into 9th place, so Matt Sentel has moved up into 8th off our screens. We don't know whether it was a pass or a mistake from Blair, but Sentel's now up into 8th place. There's been a good recovery from the guy who had no rear wing after the first lap.
No rear wing, of course, always can be a problem.
Yep, definitely wouldn't want to drive around the track with that. You're pretty much liable to spin in. to be fair to him, Sentinel's really pulling away from Blair Disley as well, so he's got some good pace in the car. It makes me wonder where he could be on track now if he hadn't been caught up in that first lap carnage.
Yeah, of course, the problem we have is that we don't know whether it's Blair Disley who's going slowly or Sentinel who's going very fast. Blair Disley could be in trouble.
Absolutely, he could have some damage that we're not aware of. I'm not sure whether Blair Disley was maybe involved in that crash with Jaakko Stadanov, because he is running around in a, is it a grey car? No, it's not. No, he wasn't involved in that crash. No, he's got a white car.
Yeah,
at least it looks white on my screen.
Yeah, it is white. It's oh, is it grey? It could be grey. Yeah, if you call that a crash, I'd call it more of a what to call it, an aeroplane incident. I mean, we've got to watch out for low-flying cars, it appears, at Imola today, because that was completely bonkers. Of all the things we've seen today, and we've seen quite a few crazy things today, that was probably the most crazy. Two cars getting involved with each other, and then Sock coming flying into the back and causing. Who was it that went fly? Who turned into the UFO?
Jaakko Stadanov and Steve Sock both came to go. Both pretty much took off after that.
Yeah, coming into land. Probably in about 10 minutes' time. That's how far up they went. But moving back on to Jim Paresis, and he is closing in, isn't he? He's definitely just closing in, perhaps by a tenth. We can't tell you exactly, but he is closing in.
Yeah, but it's still not too much, which, you know, really gives credit to Jiri Toman. He's, you know, dealing with this pressure really, really well. He's sat there with Jim behind him for a good, probably about 20 minutes now, and he's soaking up all the pressure, and it's really showing that these two guys are really going at it at the top of their game. They're pushing as hard as they can to try and do something here. I'm sure Toman wants Paresis maybe to just drop back so he can have a bit of an easy final 7 minutes of this race, but Paresis, I'm sure, will not be giving up on a chance to win the first round of the season.
Yeah, and a point I'd like to make is that Paresis, sitting in that dirty air, his tyres will be wearing far more than Toman, who is out front with completely clean air, and that could well play into Toman's advantage. Having said that, watching the mirrors can always cause mistakes.
Yep, and Toman's really the guy who is under pressure more. Paresis, he just has to, you know, go for it. There's nothing he can lose by going for it. Toman, there's everything that he can lose by, you know, just getting a bit wide coming out one of these corners, getting on the power maybe a little bit too early, and when you get to the end of the race, you know, your heart rate might go up a bit, you might start feeling a bit shaky, thinking about winning first race in your first ever appearance in an FSR race. It's always something to be excited and nervous about at the same time.
And certainly a win on the debut would be something that would be very impressive for Jiri Toman, but it just appears, just to my eye, that Paresis is getting a little bit closer every now and then. Every time I look at him, it seems that he's just closing in just a tiny bit.
Yeah, oh, he's just getting very, very loose there, is Paresis, coming out of Aqua Minerale again. Who is this that we're coming up behind now? We've got a back marker that's maybe about to play a role in... Oh, it's Blair Disley, yeah. The wise old head of Blair Disley being a very, very sportsman-like guy, just getting out of the way of both the drivers there, giving them plenty of room down straight towards the Rivazza, so that's great play by Blair Disley there.
Yeah, Blair Disley showing his experience, showing that he knows how to race fair and how to be gentlemanly on the track, and that's always good to see, especially when you're far down. You don't want to affect what could be a very exciting battle going into the final 5 minutes now. The clock has just turned to 40 out of 45, and I believe it will use normal endurance racing rules that once the clock reaches 0, that will be the final lap. Is that correct?
I assume so, yep. I'm pretty sure that's how it's going to be. As soon as the clock hits 0, that will be your final lap.
And I wonder if Paresis can close up even more to Toman, whether Toman will have to think about managing the clock. He'll have to think about perhaps going a bit faster or slower in order to get it so that he avoids one more lap and avoids one more chance for Paresis to pass him.
I don't think that's too much of a thing that he could be thinking about right now, to be honest with you. He's just got to go as fast as he can to keep this gap maintained between himself and Paresis. But
well, if Paresis starts catching faster, then he might have to think about that, because if Paresis only needs one more lap, then he will kick himself. If Paresis passes him on the final lap, and he could have avoided that lap.
Renscop has just come out of the pits, so not entirely sure what that was all about, whether he had damage or something, or perhaps Renscop is thinking about just going for glory, getting a fastest lap under his belt, and just getting one for the stats book here.
Yeah, he wants to finish, and of course, we'll never know, might see a few more retirements, and if you do, then he'll be pushed even further up the field. I have to say, if you can just run around and not crash, then you've got a good chance of doing alright in this Winter Series, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got just under half the field left, and really ever since that aeroplane crash that we had, we've had pretty clean driving, so these guys are clearly not being affected by any issues that they might have, and they all seem to be on their game, just being able to drive around the track fairly consistently, as we see David Greco coming through Tamburello and just getting a little bit loose. He's got Martin Hodas in his sights here, or is that Blair Disley? No, it looks like it is Martin Hodas. Yes, it is. So we could have a big battle for the podium position here, the final podium position.
And that's good to see. It seems that after a completely mental start, the race kind of strung out a bit, and now it's like a spring, it's all coming back together for the end. Can Paresis catch Jerry Toman for the lead? Can David Greco make inroads into the lead that Hodas has over him for the third position? David Greco, of course, started from the front row. Jerry Toman took the lead at the start. Then there was a safety car after a completely crazy first lap where at least 10 cars, maybe even more, were involved in some sort of incident. On the restart, Greco took the lead, but then, unseen to us, he had some sort of trouble, perhaps with the damage he received from Patrick de Witt crashing into him earlier in the race, and he fell back to about 7th. He's forced his way back up to 4th, and can he fight his way back up to a podium position? He could. It would be very impressive and a real statement of intent from the ex-FSR driver returning to the series today.
Yep, and really I just would like to say once again what a great job Jerry Toman's done. If you think about it, apart from maybe sleeping on that restart, he hasn't really set a wheel wrong all day, and that's perhaps the reason why he is going to be the one to take the checkered flag. But of course we've still got 2 minutes left, probably 2 laps to go after this one, I'd say, and Disley's still there. Paresis is still there. You don't know what's going to happen.
2 or 3 laps, yeah, I'd say. It depends at what point Toman crosses the line to start his final lap, really, doesn't it? But Paresis, he really has to push now. If he's got anything left in the tank, if he's just holding off the dirty air, then he has to push now. And Toman goes past a lapped car there. I didn't quite catch who that was. I love this camera view. I love that camera view over the high chicane, where it kind of swings above the car, and you see it right on top. That's an excellent view. And yeah, Paresis, it looks like the gap's just stretched out a tiny bit now. It looks like Toman started to consolidate his lead, his win, because it was coming together, and now it looks like it might have just stretched out a little bit.
Yep, but we've still got a couple more lap cars here. I believe it's going to be Rando Tam and Blair Disley that they're going to catch before the end of this race, and hopefully they'll see. Oh, there's a lockup by Rando Tam, I believe it was, going across the chicane as well, and oh, Disley's gone off. No, he hasn't. Yes. Oh, I don't know if that was a bit of lag. He looked like he lost it there in the Tamburello, but somehow the car's still on track. I hope.
Yeah, I remember Blair Disley did that a bit earlier in the race. Not, a bit more extreme than that one, where he went completely sideways and then the car suddenly snapped back. It almost saved.
And look at this
now. Greco is right on the back of him, isn't he?
Yep, I was just about to say exactly the same thing. We've definitely got a battle for third position now. Greco's really going for it. He's at least half the gap, and he's right on the back of the gearbox here, going through the Tosa.
And Greco already pulled off an excellent pass on Jerry Toman on the outside of the Tamburello, so perhaps he'll go for that one as well. I mean, that is the best passing place, isn't it? Out of the Ravazza, down into turn 1, the Tamburello. is the best place to get by, it would seem, and Greco knows how to do it on both the inside and the outside. He's shown both today, and perhaps he's the best one to get a pass today, because everybody else appears to be having some sort of problem, not seeing cars, not seeing cars in their correct position. But Greco has shown that he's got the experience and the knowledge in order to pass cars today.
Yep. As
we're on the 55th minute, so whether this will be the final lap or not, I'm not sure.
It looks like is it? Has Jiri Toman slowed down? Yes, he has. So that's surely
Jiri Toman is the winner. There we go. That was a completely crazy
Greco's
burst.
off. David Greco's off. He's got off the track, and we're seeing a replay now. Coming
Trying
down
too
to
hard,
the
I
that's
expect.
it. Yep, he's right on the back of Martin Hodas. So, Hodas's car is lagging all over the place, and Greco just sticks it on the inside, not much room, and there's contact between the two. David Greco goes round. Hodas manages to carry on, and it looks like David Greco held off Philly Lapala there at the end. Oh no, Philly Lapala was much further back, so it must have been Blair Disley.
Yeah, that is indeed Blair Disley in the white / grey car. But that was an exciting little twist there. David Greco trying everything to get past Hodas, but Hodas manages to hold on for an excellent third position from him. You have to say, Paresis couldn't quite make inroads into Jiri Toman. We're sorry we didn't quite have, we didn't know whether it was the final lap or not, but it was indeed, because we don't have a timer with the exact seconds. We didn't know whether it was the 45th minute and still 20 seconds left, or whether it was over the time or not. But Jiri Toman, an excellent win from the pole. It wasn't completely uneventful. He had to give up the lead at the restart, but he got it back, and he goes on to win. An excellent drive from him.
Absolutely. I think going into this event, you would have been putting your money on the likes of David Greco, Patrick DeWitt, our defending Winter Series champion, to really, come out here, make a statement, win the race fairly comfortably. But at the end of the day, Toman just kept his own, didn't make mistakes when those around him went off the track, and did an excellent job of holding off Paresis, and never really gave Paresis any chance of getting onto the back of him and actually having a run at him into one of the corners. So fantastic job by Jiri Toman here.
Yeah, a fantastic job, and like you say, he dealt with the pressure. He dealt with the pressure of leading the race. He dealt with the pressure of the late charge from Jim Paresis, and he managed to take the checkered flag and win the first series of first race even of the FSR Winter Series. So join us, I expect, next week for round 2. Hopefully we'll see a bit more on-track battling rather than on-track crashing. But certainly it's been intriguing, an intriguing start to our Factor 2, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Yep, round 2 coming up next week from Estoril. That's a returning race from last year. I believe that was the opening race of the season last year. Indeed it was.
So DeWitt will be looking to defend his win there.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's nothing more to say, but join us next week. It's goodbye from me, James Tucker.
And it's goodbye from me, Sam Jones.
Thank you very much for watching.